Have you ever wondered why life took so much from you, and yet left you here? Maybe you've lost loves, dreams, opportunities. Maybe today everything feels too quiet or too empty. But there's something you need to know. Nothing absolutely. Nothing happened by chance. You got here for a reason. And in this video, I want to show you why one day everything will make sense. This is an invitation to understand that the pain wasn't in vain, that the silences held hidden answers, and that, even when everything seemed lost, life was only guiding you. If you feel like you still don't understand the why behind things, stay with me until the end, because maybe today you'll find the answer you've been searching for years. This isn't just another video, it's a reunion with your story, and it's not over yet. The purpose of small losses. Have you ever noticed how certain losses, no matter how small they seemed at the time, left a deep mark on your life? Sometimes it's just a cup breaking during breakfast for no reason. A dry sound, a crack that interrupts the silence of the house. At first glance, it's just one less object on the shelf. But somehow, it stirs something inside us. Because it's not just the cup. It's the automatic gesture of pouring coffee, the morning ritual, the time that passed without us noticing. Every small loss carries a memory, a hidden meaning, a silent message from life calling for our attention. That we spend our lives accumulating objects, people, memories. And when something disappears, even if it seems insignificant, life is trying to teach us something. But in the rush of daily life, or in the loneliness of those who've seen too much, we don't always notice. Yet with time, with gray hair and slower hands, we begin to understand, not every loss is an ending. Sometimes it's the quiet beginning of something yet to come. Remember that friendship that ended without explanation, or that job you lost when you needed it most. At the time, it felt like the end of the world, a hard blow. But what happened afterward? How many times did what you thought was a defeat turn out to be the push you needed to get somewhere better? The truth is, small losses train our soul. They prepare us for big changes, teach us to let go of what no longer serves us, even if it hurts. They're like autumn winds that make leaves fall from trees, not to destroy, but to make room for the new. Maybe you're experiencing a loss right now. Small, perhaps, silent, but it's there, unsettling you from within. And if you pay attention, you'll realize this loss might be a calling, an invitation from life to detach, to make space, to trust that what lies ahead could be better than what's gone. How many times have you grieved something that today you're grateful to have lost? How many closed doors, which at the time seemed unfair, were actually the necessary detour to protect you from something worse or to lead you exactly where you needed to be? Life has its own rhythms, and losses are part of it. When we lose something small, we get the chance to reflect, to look inward and ask, do I really need this? Am I ready to let this go? And sometimes, without realizing it, the simple act of losing something ordinary, a cup, an old photograph, an old habit, is the start of a new chapter, because losing is also cleansing, making space, allowing something more meaningful to come. And that takes courage. Courage to accept that there's a greater meaning behind every absence, even the smallest ones. Courage to trust that life never misses the mark, and that even if we don't understand it now, one day, everything will make sense. So the next time something small slips away, an object, a routine, even a moment, take a deep breath. Instead of holding on, ask yourself, what is this trying to show me? Maybe the answer won't come right away. Maybe it'll take days, years, but it will come. And when it does, you'll look back with a quiet smile and understand what seemed so small was actually the starting point of a much greater transformation. And that's why we should never underestimate the power of small losses. They're the first signs that life is moving, that something new is trying to enter. And that, without even realizing it, you're being guided. You always have been. Unexpected twists. Do you remember an ordinary day that changed everything? Sometimes it's just a phone call, a quick chat at the bus stop, a forgotten letter at the back of a drawer. Nothing warns you of what's coming. Life doesn't send a notice, and that's how the biggest shifts usually happen, quietly, mysteriously, without asking for permission. Unexpected twists, those turns that weren't on the map, the ones that completely alter the path. Have you ever experienced something like that? A moment when everything seemed certain, under control, and then suddenly a piece of news, a loss, a new love, a choice completely reroutes everything. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but always toward the truth of your journey. And though in the moment you may have cried, resisted, felt afraid, looking back now you might realize that needed to happen. It's easy to think life is falling apart when the unexpected strikes. After all, stability gives us a false sense of security. But what is stability if not a pause between cycles? Nature changes, seasons shift, the ocean has tides. Why would our lives be any different? The truth is, transformation is the pulse of existence. And every twist, no matter how painful, carries a greater purpose. Remember when you thought you'd lost everything? Maybe it was the end of a marriage, the departure of someone you loved, or a retirement that came too soon. You stood before an emptiness, a silence that ached. But slowly, that same silence began to speak. It began to reveal paths that were once hidden. You discovered new strengths, met people you never would have known, found passions that had been dormant. Life, with its wisdom beyond human logic, knows exactly how to guide us. And often, it uses these twists to pull us out of places where we no longer belong. Because it's too easy to grow comfortable with what's lukewarm. Too easy to cling to the familiar, even when it no longer nourishes us. That's why these twists come with force to wake us up. To remind us the journey isn't over yet. Maybe today, you're navigating one of those turns. Maybe everything that once felt secure is now unraveling. If so, don't despair. Sometimes, the pain of now is the price of the freedom yet to come. Sometimes, confusion is the fertile ground where revelations grow. And as contradictory as it may seem, some of life's greatest gifts arrive only after chaos. How many people have you met because something unexpected happened? How many joys have you experienced because the original plan fell apart? That's what teaches us to trust, not just in the straight paths, but in the detours. Not just in the easy roads, but in the winding trails that demand more from us, more presence, more courage, more faith. Twists aren't punishments. They're blessings in disguise. They're life's way of saying, you can't stop here. There's more to see, more to be. And when you accept that, even without understanding, something inside you matures. You're no longer the same person. You carry a wisdom that can only be earned by traveling where the maps don't reach. So even when everything seems to go wrong, remember, nothing is accidental. There's an order beneath the apparent chaos. And every unexpected twist is in truth an invisible hand pushing you toward what's rightfully yours. A life more authentic, more whole, more true. In the end, what we call the unforeseen might just be life correcting the course to take us exactly where we were always meant to be. People who arrived late. Some people come into our lives too late, or so we think. They weren't there when youth was blooming, when children were growing, when dreams were still being built. They didn't hold our hand through the first stumbles, didn't hear our earliest doubts, didn't see the battles we fought in silence. But then suddenly, like a whisper from fate, they appear. Without warning, without hurry, without explanation. Maybe it's a friend who shows up in a lonely season. A love that arrives when the heart had already settled into silence. Or even someone who truly listens to us for the first time when we'd stopped expecting it. These people, whom some might call late, play a quietly powerful role in our story. Because they didn't come to walk with us from the beginning. They came to remind us that life goes on, even after we think we've seen it all. It's easy to believe we've run out of time. That certain emotions, discoveries, or affections are only for the young. That the depth of a bond can only grow from years of shared history. That sometimes a true connection can happen in an instant and last long enough to heal what a lifetime couldn't. Have you ever met someone who, in just a few days, seemed to understand everything you could never put into words? Someone who heard your silence, saw beyond your speech, and touched your soul with kindness? These people didn't arrive late. They arrived when you were ready. Ready to receive, to open up, to look at yourself with more generosity. Time doesn't define the importance of an encounter. Some people spend decades by our side and never truly know us. Others, in just a few moments, reveal parts of us we never knew existed. They don't replace those who came before. They don't erase what was, but they bring something new, a different perspective. A peace that only comes after many storms. Sometimes, those who arrive late come with a maturity youth couldn't offer. With the patience only life teaches. With the listening the modern world has forgotten. They're in no rush. They don't want to fix you. They simply stay, and that's enough. Because after so much loss, all we really want is someone who stays. No grand promises, no demands for idealized versions of who we are. These people are late gifts, like flowers blooming out of season. They surprise, they touch, they heal. And though they weren't there for the earlier chapters of our story, they have the power to change the ending. To give meaning to what once seemed meaningless. To remind us that life still holds surprises. And that it's never too late to experience something real. Maybe it took you a long time to meet someone like this. Or maybe you still will. What matters is staying open. Not everything that comes at the end is less important. Sometimes it's precisely at the end that the pieces fit. That love shows itself calmer, wiser, more whole. That friendship grows deeper, more loyal. That laughter makes sense again. People who arrive late are proof that time doesn't control everything. The heart doesn't follow a clock. The soul doesn't obey calendars. And the most meaningful encounters often happen after the hurry is gone. So if someone has walked into your life today and brought you peace, listen closely. Maybe it's the right time, even if the world says it's too late. Because for some connections, it's never too late. Never. The value of suffering. No one chooses to suffer. No one wakes up wanting pain, grief, abandonment, or loneliness. Suffering finds us without warning. It pulls the ground from beneath us, leaves us disoriented. It doesn't ask permission. It just arrives. And when it does, we're left with the crushing sense that something has been lost forever. That there's no going back. That the world as we knew it has collapsed. But what if I told you suffering, no matter how cruel it seems, didn't come to destroy you? What if it's actually a teacher? A harsh but necessary one. It might sound strange to think this way, especially when your eyes are still wet with unhealed pain. But look back honestly and you'll see, it was in your hardest moments that you grew the most. Think for a second about the wounds you carried in silence. That loss that felt unbearable. That betrayal that shattered you. The loneliness that made you question your worth. Now ask yourself, who did you become after that? You're not the same. Pain changed you. It refined you, like time does to river stones, sometimes chipping away pieces, other times smoothing edges, but always shaping something new. Suffering has a role that happy moments can't fulfill. It forces us to look inward, to reconsider what truly matters. It pulls us out of autopilot, distraction, the illusion of control. It makes us see what's essential and what was just noise. It brings us closer to ourselves and to God, if we allow it. Of course, no one thanks pain while they're feeling it. But with time, When the storm passes and the heart settles, we understand. We needed to go through it to see life more clearly, to appreciate who stayed, to forgive who hurt us, to leave behind what no longer served us. And there's another value in suffering that few talk about. It connects us to others. Have you noticed how much easier it is to bond with someone who suffered? People who've endured deep pain speak more gently, listen more patiently, judge less quickly. They know. They understand. Because they felt what many avoid even naming. So there's no shame in pain, no weakness in suffering. Quite the opposite. There's nobility, courage, depth, and most importantly, transformation. Because no one comes out of suffering the same way they entered. If you let it, it can make you wiser, more sensitive, and above all, more human. Today, maybe you carry pains that still weigh heavy, that still steal your sleep, that no one knows about. But know this, what you feel has value. Not to define you, but to refine you. To lead you to a new place within yourself, one with compassion, wisdom, and strength. A quiet strength that doesn't shout or show off, but holds you steady even when everything tries to knock you down. And when you've made it through this pain, because yes, it will pass, you might become a light for others. Someone who illuminates without noise. Someone who extends a hand, who knows how to wait, who offers silence as healing. Because those who truly know pain learn to be shelter, to be a bridge. To see suffering not as an end, but as an invitation. An invitation to live with more truth, more purpose, more love. One day, when you look back, you won't just see scars. You'll see all that was born because of them. And in silence, you'll understand it was necessary. It was hard, but it was necessary. The silence of answers. Have you noticed how we spend our lives chasing answers? Why did this happen to me? Why now? What did I do wrong? These questions echo inside us, especially when paths twist and life's winds blow too hard. But with time, and time is the greatest teacher, we learn that not all answers come when we want them. Not all arrive in words. Some come in silence. Others never come at all. And maybe that's where deeper wisdom lies. Not everything needs an answer to make sense. Some questions stay with us for decades. Some pains remain unexplained. Goodbyes never bring clarity. Paths are taken without full understanding. For years, maybe you fought that silence. Maybe you screamed at the sky, prayed in lonely nights, begged for signs. And what came? Silence, emptiness, the echo of your own voice. But today, you might start to see that silence wasn't absence, it was presence. A time of ripening. Life teaching you that instead of chasing every answer, you needed to learn to feel the questions. To live with them. To walk with them like old companions, not obstacles. Because sometimes, the answer comes in a glance. Other times, in a simple gesture, a grandchild's hug. The smell of afternoon coffee, the sound of rain on the roof. The way your heart calms for no clear reason. In these moments, you realize what seemed like chaos was actually reordering. What felt like punishment was redirection. What sounded like silence was the answer. The rush to understand is the restlessness of youth. But with age, with life's marks on body and soul, we learn to wait. To listen with different ears. To accept that some things reveal themselves only with time. Or never do, and that's okay. Because peace isn't found in knowing everything. It's in calmly accepting what you don't know. How often have you received an answer and still found no relief? And how often, with no answer at all, have you felt an unexplainable peace? This proves the heart understands more than the mind can grasp. That a subtler intelligence guides our lives, steering each step even when we feel lost. Some questions are only heard by the soul. Some silences are only translated by time. When you quiet your inner noise, when you stop demanding and simply observe, that's when answers begin to take shape, even without words. They don't arrive with fanfare. They come like dawn, slowly, gently, inevitably. Maybe the greatest secret is this: don't force it. Don't demand life explain itself constantly. Some answers aren't for now. Some are for when your heart is mature enough to hold them, and others will remain mysteries until the end, yet still, they'll transform you. So if you find yourself in silence today, without understanding why, don't despair. Maybe this silence is the language of the sacred, the pause before clarity. The space life needs to plant a new seed within you. Embrace this silence, walk with it, and sooner or later, without you even noticing, it will lead you to peace. Not because it answered your questions, but because it taught you to live without all the answers. What went unsaid? We all have words left unspoken, a sentence swallowed at the wrong moment, an apology that never found the courage to be voiced, an I love you trapped between pride and fear. And the longer time passes, the heavier those silences become. Because silence isn't just the absence of sound sometimes. It's the living memory of what we couldn't say. Maybe you think of someone who's gone, someone you wish you had talked to more, said more to, or listened to better. Maybe you blame yourself for an unresolved argument, a postponed visit, a hug never given. And you carry it like a quiet stone in your chest, something no one sees. But that's always there. The truth is, no one leaves this life without words left unsaid. Routine swallows us, emotions paralyze us, and opportunities always seem clearer in hindsight than they were in the moment. That's why regret is so common in those who've lived long. It's born from understanding that comes too late, and the feeling that now, there's nothing left to do. But is that really true? What if I told you there's still time? That what you never said can become a gesture, an action, a welcoming silence. That even those who are gone still hear what you hold in your heart. The human soul has its own ways of speaking. And often, what wasn't said aloud can still be said. In prayer, in thought, in an act of love given to someone else. Some heal old wounds by writing a letter. Some ask for forgiveness before a photograph. Some find peace by looking inward and simply forgiving themselves. Because yes, you must forgive yourself. For not speaking, for not acting, for being afraid. For not knowing then what you know now. Life doesn't come with instructions, we learn by living. And maturity teaches us that the wisest isn't always the fastest, the strongest, or the surest. Often, the wisest is the one who has the courage to look back with tenderness, to hold their flaws with compassion. And then there's the other side. How many beautiful things have you left unsaid out of shame, pride, or fear of seeming weak? How many people close to you are still waiting, even now, to hear a simple thank you, or you matter to me? Those words, spoken now, still have power, maybe more than ever. Because the more time passes, the more precious sincere words become. What went unsaid can be a burden, or it can be a starting point. There's still time to write letters, make calls, visit people who meant something. Still time to turn unspoken words into real love. It doesn't matter if you're 60, 70, or 80. The heart doesn't age. It only matures. And a mature heart knows it's never too late to speak the truth. Say today what you postponed yesterday. Say it with words, with gestures, with your eyes. Say it with a silence full of presence, if words fail. But say it. Free yourself from the weight of the unspoken. Because in the end, what truly heals isn't a life lived without mistakes, but a life lived with truth. And truth, even spoken late, can still touch, still heal, still begin again. One day, you'll understand why everything happened this way. One day, you'll remember the cup that broke, the door that closed, the silence that felt like punishment, the people who arrived late, the pain that seemed pointless. And you'll realize that behind every small loss, every absence, every fresh start, there was an invisible thread guiding you, even on the days you thought you were alone. Life isn't made of certainties. It's made of meaning. And often, that meaning only appears after time has passed, when your heart stops resisting and starts accepting. Accepting that not everything needs to be understood now. Accepting that what hurt also taught. That what left also freed. That what went unsaid can still echo where it matters. And in that quiet, almost mystical moment, something shifts inside you. The pain that once wounded now teaches. The emptiness that frightened you now shelters. The questions that haunted you now rest. Because you understand that everything had a purpose. That nothing was wasted. That you were never as lost as you thought. Today, you're here, hearing these words. Not by chance. Maybe this is the moment of understanding. Maybe now you're ready to see your story with new eyes. Eyes that are wiser, kinder, less demanding. Because in the end, what remains is this. The understanding that life, even with its missteps, was exactly as it needed to be. And there's still time, still beauty, still love, still life. Now, I invite you to do something for yourself. Take a piece of paper. Write a letter to yourself, or to someone who's gone, or to someone who stayed. Say what you never had the courage to say. Release what weighs on you. Heal what hurts. Or simply, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and repeat, I accept my story. I honor what I've lived. And I move forward at peace with all that was. If these words touched your heart, share them. You never know who right now might need them to keep going. And remember, life isn't over. It's just teaching you, with silence, with patience, to see everything with more soul.